In March 1314, Paris, France, Jacques de Molay was burned alive for blasphemy. Before he died, he cursed the Pope and the King to die that same year, and in turn, some say, cursed the day, Friday the 13th.
Hey, cool friends. Welcome to the Freaky Femme podcast. I'm Em.
And I'm Doll, and we have something special we're going to be talking about today. It just so happens to be Friday the 13th.
In December.
What does that mean to you? What do you think of when you think of Friday the 13th?
You believe in the superstitions of Friday the 13th?
First thing that always comes to mind, of course, is going to be the movie. But then I started thinking more about it, and I'm like, actually, when I was a kid, you know how some cartoons would talk about like Friday the 13th and it was all about bad luck?
Mm-hmm.
I never even went into that of why. And then when I've asked about that, people that told me, our grandpa told us, our grandpa told me that 13 was an unlucky number. And back in the day,
supposedly it is.
they wouldn't have 13 steps going up to anything, and they wouldn't have a 13th floor. So hospitals and big buildings.
What?
Yeah, they would literally skip the 13th floor. So when you're going up an elevator, it would see 12 and then jump to 14. They would not have a 13th floor. Yeah,
is that
they
for
would.
real?
And and he even told me one time, we went to this place that was like a historic deal, and they had a gallows there. And then he's like, count those steps for me. And I was like, why? And he's like, count the steps. And it was 13 steps. And there was 13 steps leading up to the gallows because it's supposed, unlucky. Basically, their unlucky day. So they did that almost to mock them.
Wow.
So there's
you're
lot
cursed and you're gonna die.
Yeah, it's count these steps as you're walking up to them to your last breathing days. I was fascinated by that because Dad actually is the one that told me. Well, Papa did too, but Dad would tell me about these. I think there's even, I don't know if it's a Twilight Zone or there was a story about the 13th floor. There was I don't remember where it was. I don't remember where it was or anything because I was just a kid and he was telling me the story, but I think it was a hospital. It had 15 floors or something like that. Some place had 15 floors. And then it skipped the 13th. But there was a 13th floor, but the elevator would not open on the 13th floor. There was nothing to open up to. And the reason they closed it off is because bad things always happened on that floor.
That is weird.
But yeah, so I started doing some research of why 13 is unlucky or whatever. So here's why people say that the number 13 is unlucky. And it goes back all the way to Bible times. Do you have an educated guess of why you think 13 might be a bad number?
It was in the Bible because Judas.
Yeah. According to biblical traditions, 13 guests attended the Last Supper, held on Thursday, including Jesus and his 12 apostles. One of whom,
There's 13.
Yeah, one of whom, Judas, betrayed him. The next day, of course, was Good Friday, the day of Jesus' crucifixion. The long-standing Christian superstition that 13 guests at a table has a bad omen. Specifically, that it was courting death. So they believed that if you had 13 guests at a table, someone was going to die. Something bad was going to happen after. Mainly death. Someone was going to die. Just as Jesus was crucified on a Friday, Friday was also said to be the day Eve gave Adam the fateful apple from the tree of knowledge, as well as the day Cain killed his brother Abel. So somebody be spouting this stuff saying, hey guys, Friday I think is just a bad day. It's not necessarily the 13th, but Friday, and then 13 guests. Mm-hmm. So Friday is just not a good day, apparently. Though everybody loves Friday, right? Everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, Friday, that's what they call it nowadays. But back in the day, I guess it wasn't such a good day. They're like, oh no, Friday's coming. Watch out. Okay. So.
Lock your doors, check your windows.
That's the oldest.
Friday.
Yes. So what I read to you was the oldest reason why people think Friday and 13 are unlucky. That's all I found on like the number 13 of that instance. But until we get to who we talked at the beginning of this episode, Jacques de Molay. He was the head of the Knights Templars. He was the
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
On the 13th of October, the King of France decided he needed money, okay? He's like, I'm feeling a little poor, I need some money, so who around here has money? And he goes and looks at the Knights Templar. He's like, those people, I think they have money.
They're like religious figures?
Yeah, they were like religious knights. No, they were actually knights. You know the knights you see with like the crosses on them, the red crosses?
Crusaders?
Like, yeah, basically kind of like that. Those were who they are. So he decided he needed money, and he also owed everyone money. He even owed the Knights Templars money. So he went and attacked them. He killed a lot of them and tortured a lot of them and threw a lot in prison. Like a lot. And he captured... Jacques de Molay was the Grand Master. So it was really important that he execute him publicly. Okay, so he decided to burn him alive.
Jacques? They're gonna execute
Yeah.
Jacques?
What was the reason, do you think, that they could be like, okay, I need money, so they came up with a reason to capture him? What do you think they came up with?
The Templar people?
Yeah. What do you think they came up with to accuse them, quote unquote, they accused them of something? They accused them of blasphemy. Some of the things that they accused them were navel kissing, like kissing belly buttons. Okay? And also, so they accused him. The king said, I'm pretty sure I heard somebody say that the Knight Templars were kissing each other's belly buttons. Okay? Not only that, yes.
Is that what that means?
Yes, and not only that, they were spitting on the cross. I saw Jacques over there spitting on the cross, okay? So that's the reason they gave them to go, grab these knights and Jacques, the Grand Master. They didn't do any of this that they accused them of. They just needed money, and they needed some reason. So, since there's the king and the pope, and they were in on this together, like, who were they going to believe?
Maybe they were taking shots. Maybe they're taking shots out of each other's belly buttons.
Probably. That's what they were You're probably right. They were mistaking their belly button shots for belly button kissing. That's what got them into trouble. They're just having a good time. Yeah, they're just having a good time at the brothel. The king and the pope thought it would be a good idea to publicly execute Jacques in front of a bunch of people to like make a statement out of them. Would be ultimately their downfall, because why he was being burned alive at the stake, he cursed the pope, saying, "You and King Philip will die this year." And not 33 days later, the pope died suddenly, and 7 months after that, the King of France died. He had a massive stroke. So they both died after Jacques cursed them. He was literally being burned alive. Like, why he was being burned, he cursed them.
Serves them right.
They were trying to get them to confess, okay? They were trying to get all these knights and Jacques to confess. So, guess what?
Kissing each other's belly buttons.
They were like,
trying to convince them
don't lie to me. I know you did this. And so they said, no, we didn't. And so they tortured him till they basically said, okay, I did it. And so once they were done being tortured, they went back to him like, you did this. And they're like, no, I didn't. I just said it because I was being tortured. And they're like, whatever. You're going to get executed anyway. Both times that they went to Jacques, he retracted what he said, saying that the only reason he said it is because he was being tortured, or he was being said to say this. The knights too. They were like, we didn't.
They do that stuff nowadays with the police force and stuff. Like, they'll keep people up for days and days and days and keep
until they confess,
grilling them and grilling them and grilling them, and they didn't even do it. And they just want someone to confess.
Yeah, they had to have them confess because otherwise they couldn't execute them and they couldn't take their money. Basically, poor knights that weren't doing anything but taking belly button shots. They weren't doing nothing. They were not spitting on no crosses.
We're just partying, having a good time. Maybe they didn't
it's really
have shot
sad.
glasses, so they had to use the belly button.
Yeah. They just came up with these things. They both got what they deserved. And somehow I think, because I was thinking about that, I was like, I bet you he did curse them. I think that's true. Like,
yeah, there's also that thing, I think, in the Bible where they say
your
cursing
words,
people and like wiping the dust off your feet from their house or whatever, and as opposed to like
be a detriment on
I don't
them.
know what it does.
I think that shows overall how innocent he was to what they accused him and his people, like all of his men, because what he said would happen happened to him. It almost, to me, it feels like it proves his innocence even more. The people that wronged him died.
They get burned at the stake, and then I'm like, well,
Yeah. So
hey, y'all.
they think the day they were captured, they were turned against by the Pope and the King was Friday the 13th. So people think that not only did Jacques curse the King and the Pope, he in turn also cursed the day of Friday the 13th. So that's where that ties into play. So I thought that was really interesting. Like I really
that
got
is
into
why it's a
learning about
bad
this.
day.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the history I've found of like where it may have started.
Supposedly the pandemic started on March 13th of 2020.
Like the first case. That is interesting. Yeah. That's like the newest one. I don't know when
the curse continues. Yeah. So I have some stories. People that experienced much misfortune. First one. So on November 13th of 1987, there's no man who ever lived suspicious of Friday the 13th as Bob Renfrey. Bob was a retired bus driver who had a run of bad luck. Every single Friday the 13th during the 1990s. Incidents ran from falling in a river, crashing a motorcycle, riding off 4 cars, and accidentally hitting his wife in the face with a stick that he was trying to throw to his dog. Let me read that. After those incidents, Bob stayed in bed every Friday the 13th until he passed away in 1998. Wife Betty decided to have him buried on March's Friday the 13th as a tribute to his long-standing war with the date. But alas, 13 got its last word. All undertakers were booked solid, so no one could even come get his body because everyone was booked solid on Friday the 13th. So
many people would die.
Had the last laugh.
Poor Bob.
Sad. Poor Bob. Rest in peace, Bob.
Most of the time, I don't even know when it's Friday the 13th. Like, the last time this happened, like, unless somebody tells me it's Friday the 13th, I wouldn't even know. Half the time, because I don't even know what the date is.
Only thing I know, is if I know it's Friday the 13th, I get excited because, you grew up with Jason and stuff. Yeah. But also, I'm like, oh man, that means they're going to have $13 tattoos, like back in the day. They're not really 13 anymore, but they used to be back in the day. So the next one I have, it's an older story.
Okay.
It was on January 13th of 1939. It's labeled Australia's Black Friday. The summer of 1939 in Australia was one of the hottest we'd seen in a long time. Ground was dry, and flowing water was a rare sight to see. It was severe enough to have people on water watches. Several groups of people disregarded Smokey the Bear and left their fires burning. Why are they having fires burning? Well, it was 1939.
Yeah, but also super hot. Oh, back in the day, they did a lot of fires to just burn basically everything because they didn't really have.
But yeah, they had to cook and stuff.
But also, also to burn their trash.
Oh. It wasn't one person or even one group of people that were responsible for the following disaster. The fire spread across acres and acres of land, destroying over 60 sawmills and killing over 70 people. 1,000 houses were lost. Almost 5 million acres of land were torched.
Wow.
Even today, over 70 years later, Australia's lands feel the lack of fertilization, moisture that was caused by that wildfire.
Wow.
This next one, November 13th of 1829. Niagara Falls Daredevil. Sam Patch was a daredevil. His trick was diving off Niagara Falls and bouncing right back up. He was so sure of his ability to bungee the waterfall, in fact, that he ran an ad in the local newspaper. And in the ad, he also initially planned on forcing his trained bear to follow him off the leap as well. Yeah, I'm like, your bear don't have a bungee. Why are you making him jump off the Niagara Falls?
Yeah, but keep the bear out of it. Well, I don't care what happens to this guy now. He's trying to force a bear off the.
PETA. Is it PETA when you need it?
Where are he getting a bungee cord that can hold his weight in 1829? Where are they getting bungee cords in 1800s?
I read the story, but I didn't realize the date, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
1800s. He was bungee jumping off Niagara Falls.
I wanted to say the Empire State Building too. I kept trying to say that.
The worst word is it says he planned on forcing his trained bear. So he's gonna force him off the ledge whether he wanted to or not, which is horrible. And this stunt had an expected audience of 6,000 to 7,000 people, which is a lot for 1829. Yeah. Sam Patch's form was patchy. Oh, that's so funny. And he was swiftly swallowed by the water. There was only a few moments of suspense before people realized that something was indeed very, very wrong.
Like, is he coming back?
And the crowd? No! And the crowd just slunk away. So I guess he just never came back
That's hilarious!
Up. And I hope his poor bear didn't go down there.
That's hilarious because...
about his bear.
Imagine being like, oh yeah, he's gonna jump, and he jumps, and then, like, he doesn't come back up, and everybody just looks at each other and just walks away. That's the funniest part to me, is that they're like, you ready to go home?
Slunked away. Or slinked away.
That's
because
funny.
he never came back up.
Apparently the bear was his only friend in the world because they didn't mention anything about his wife or his mom or his dad. Maybe he scared all of his family away because he kept jumping off Niagara Falls. You would think that they jump off and people would be like screaming and scared, would be like, oh, he's not coming back. But they just didn't care. They're just like, oh well. I want to know what happened to the bear. Did the bear slink off too? He just stood up on his hind legs and then walked away with the crowd.
Show's over, fellas.
Yeah, he probably just stood up on his hind legs.
Circus.
His hind legs and then walked away with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
He like looks both ways and puts on his hat and grabs his briefcase.
What is that? Whispering just then?
Huh? No?
Were you talking? Ray.
I didn't do anything.
Podcast is haunted.
Let's listen, everybody. Listen.
And I thought you were talking and something was whispering. This and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know what it was saying.
I'll play back when I
was like,
and I'll hear it.
Oh
listen,
my
see
gosh,
if I can hear it.
Creepy.
That'll be so cool, guys.
Bad juju on me.
We might be hearing something on the podcast, and if I can make it out and I can enhance. If I can enhance it enough where you guys can hear it, then we'll put it in. See what the ghost is trying to tell you guys.
We must have made the patch guy mad. What was his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. That was weird.
Wait, I think I know what it was trying to say. Like and subscribe. Rate our Spotify podcast. Comment and email us at the Freaky Femmes. Yeah, your stories and your experiences. Have you ever had creepy, terrible, or unlucky experiences on Friday the 13th? Let us know. Also, have you ever had
superstitious?
Yeah. Do it. Okay. That's all the ghost wanted to say.
Creepy. Wait. I really hope that picked up because that was creepy as crap.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's all he was trying to say. He was trying to get you guys to remember to like, subscribe. And rate.
Yeah, because we're probably the only podcast that mentioned him.
Yeah.
No, we don't know his name. We remember him in our hearts.
Yes, that poor little bear. Okay, next one.
Bear. Okay. August 13 of 1976. Daz did prefer staying in bed on Friday the 13th to minimize hazards. As Daz was settling down into his comfy bed to enjoy his day safety, heard a strange sound, perhaps cracking or a breaking sound. Shortly after the suspicious sound, the entire apartment block collapsed and he tumbled down 6 stories to his death.
Oh my goodness. Well, that escalated
I
quickly.
know. I know.
Was it a sinkhole?
Unlikely choice. Revenge of the day. Can you imagine? You're like, I'm gonna stay safe in my home
Yeah.
to prevent hazards, and then your building collapses and you fall 6 stories.
Yeah.
Bob would agree that the day simply had it out for poor Daz.
I wonder, they must be descendants.
sad.
Maybe they're descendants of the Pope and the King. And that's why they have
That
unlucky
was
days.
that's what I was gonna say. I literally wrote it down. I'm like, what if these specific people in these stories
That
were
have all the
descendants of the cursed people?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's these specific people that are getting targeted. Bad things happen to them.
Yeah, they die on
Ones
Friday the
that
13th.
don't.
Yeah.
That was what I wrote down. When
Yeah,
you were telling your
I was
story, and I'm
thinking
like,
that
what
when
is
we were
their
talking about
descendants
that.
of these people?
Yeah.
The last story I have, October 13th of 1972 rugby team. When the Uruguayan rugby team left on their flight for Chile, only thing on their mind was crushing the Old Boys Club in a game. Due to the storm, stayed the evening on the 12th in Argentina before departing in the afternoon of the 13th. Despite the all clear that the pilot received, the sky was still cloudy and the air full of turbulence. One mistake after another seemed to happen as a pilot was attempting to descend. Air control gave him the wrong directions. He couldn't see until he was facing a mountain directly.
Wow.
The engine refused to gain altitude, causing the plane to crash 2 or 3 times into a mountain, instantly killing 12 people. By the time the plane settled on the side of the frost-bound cliff, the team had packed rations for an 11-minute plane ride. As the week stretched on, the food swiftly ran out and the survivors turned to cannibalism.
I've heard this story, actually. I didn't know it happened on Friday the 13th, though.
Which is crazy, and there's a show
This is a
called
pretty famous
Yellow
story.
Jackets,
Mhm.
and this is making me think of that because
Well,
that's
this is
what
a
it
really
was. It was-
popular story. Like, this has been, like, I've seen a lot of things made on, this story.
There was this thing, I remember this documentary I watched with Dad.
Mm-hmm.
It was about people that had to resort to cannibalism because they were like on the ocean or something. Do you remember that?
Yes, yes.
And they ended up having to eat one of the friends that died
Yes,
because
yes.
if they didn't, they would have died.
Yeah.
End of this story, it says whether you're a Bob who lives in fear of Friday the 13th or Sam Patch who would do anything to flaunt your disbelief, the mixture of an allegedly lucky number best day of the week is undeniable in its popularity in American culture. And whether or not you have personally experienced bad luck on Friday the 13th, remember that it's still possible and take care. Like you said, and I was thinking the same thing, like if they're descendants, somehow like loosely descendants, like America's a melting pot. We're
Yeah.
all related to any and everything. So there's a big possibility that the people that are experiencing it could be descendants of the ones that were cursed.
Yeah. All I know is today's Friday the 13th, guys. And you know what that means. No matter
Hey, either you're a Bob or a Sam. You're going to be jumping off Niagara Falls,
Yeah.
or you're going to be hiding in your bed like Bob and Daz,
Yeah.
hoping that Friday don't come for you.
Yeah. But no matter who you are, it is Friday the 13th. And just remember,
Lock your doors and check your windows.
'cause you never know what curses lurk outside.